So I started out one of this sermon's drafts listing off what's wrong in the world right now. But I thought about it, and that's about the polar opposite of what I want to speak to you about today. In our reading, Jesus kind of says something similar, albeit in a much more parably, Jesus-y way. He uses these non-specific broad terms like distress upon nations, the seas churning, signs in the sun, moon, and stars. You know what he's talking about, though, and he assures us in this story of the fig tree that he doesn't bring up these things to scare you, just as I will not preach fire, blame, and condemnation. Instead, I seek for us to find community in these dark times and to continue all of our individual and cooperative drives to help those people less fortunate. I am preaching to you today to protect myself from despair and to hopefully protect you all as well. Our other reading today from Thessalonians is from Thessalonians and is joyous and grateful. Paul, who wrote the letter, is so happy because the congregation they helped teach is still flourishing, although he doubted them. There was worry that because of his persecution and the other pressures, they would go back to their old ways and give up God. When Timothy reports back to Paul that they worship together and have found peace and joy in this tumultuous world, I can just imagine Paul, having worried himself completely sick, getting this report and leaning far back into his chair, letting out this deep sigh and crying these tears of joy. And may the Lord make you increase and abound in love for one another and for all, just as we abound in love for you, Paul writes. These two readings are really meant for each other. By combining them together, they create this really cohesive story of people finding this calm and love with each other in the face of this great chaos. But this wonderful effect is not just limited to our congregation or their congregation. We can find this feeling out in all of our own worlds and make an effort to reach out and bring others into them. I was lucky enough to have been involved in a Dungeons and Dragons club during my freshman year of high school, which was 2019. Seems like a long time ago. So when our school closed down and our lives were so upended, we were all in contact with each other. We pretty quickly got to playing Dungeons and Dragons online. This was great. It helped us keep some kind of schedule and joy and togetherness with us while everything was changing, nothing was certain. But as these months turned into a year and vaccines started coming out, we were all vaccinated, we were all inoculated. And one of the first things that I was really hoping to do was to take this online experience that we've been having every week and turn it into a real and in-person experience with my friends. Unfortunately, though, that kind of beacon of joy that I had every week of playing with them, it didn't carry that same feeling for one of my friends, one of the members of my group. During that year of isolation, they had grown used to this online experience, but I don't think they were really enjoying it. They were only paying, half attention to the events of the game, not really interacting with us. Now, in this story, I'd like to think of my gaming group as this Church of Thessalonians, finding joy within ourselves and together for just a couple hours each week. The healing force that just being with these people has been for me is something I cannot understate. So when I saw my friend recoiling into her shell, it pained me greatly. Now, last week at our in-person service, Yvonne was she wasn't where I am right now, but she was doing about the same thing. She was, preaching. And she was preaching about her journey to Cairo in Egypt. And what I interpreted her big takeaway as is that trying to take in all of these problems at once is just exhausting for you. But finding a problem that you can do some real good in is really all you need to do. Now, when I was looking up at her, getting inspiration and really hearing what she was saying, all I could think to myself is, well, man, Yvonne, there goes my sermon. In all honesty, though, her sermon really helped me write this one because of what she's talking about. The next time I looked at today's readings, I instantly thought of this friend who, you'll be glad to know, has rarely missed an in-person session of Dungeons and Dragons after we convinced her to come. And after we convinced her to come over. It wasn't instant 180, but it would be unfair to expect it from that. We had some interim time where she would come and, had a pretty good time, but she kept coming. Every Saturday, I see her and some of my other friends having fun, laughing, eating pizza, and finding some kind of peace and some order in the world that we all live in. And that's what I think these readings are really about. Every day we wake up and we grab these little devices, these phones that broadcast this immense humanity to us 24/7. We turn on our televisions and we see the latest news stories about the world's tragedies. To what end? We're not designed to take in all of this pain, and yet we're expected to participate in these debates, the arguments, the conversations about all these seemingly insurmountable large issues. Why do we do this? Social media has been perverted from a tool to connect us into a tool to divide and inflame us, to depress our brains into a gray mush of sadness and monotony. Screw it. When the passage talks about being on guard so that our hearts are not weighed down with dissipation and drunkenness and the worries of this life, I struggle to think of a more meaningful connection to our modern day than that gray mush. But I tell you, we've embraced this drunkenness, this dissipation, so wholeheartedly that we don't even realize our own addiction to it. But I haven't read the whole passage. It continues. That day, the day of our salvation, catch you unexpectedly like a trap. And that's exactly what's happening to us all. We've been trapped. Thankfully, I believe that God created us just the way that we are. He does not seek to condemn us for our mistreads. There's a song in the Waycross songbook, which I've probably sung hundreds, if not thousands of times. And in the past, when I've sang that song, I felt like I kind of got it, but not completely. I'm talking about Now We Gather, which I believe we have actually sung here, or Kendall has for us. And it speaks of many things similar to what I'm talking about. Images of wealth and power feed the lie so carefully. It's not a far stretch to see those images in the flashy mansions social media influencers have and their millions upon millions of followers, even the name influencer. But the song is optimistic. It knows we might stray, but the last verse goes like this. Someday we'll awake and see how far away we have roamed. Coming back along the road, receive a dancing welcome home. See, I never understood that. It just never really clicked with me. And I didn't understand it until a couple weekends ago at one of my sessions. I think specifically I had just finished my business in the toilet. And as I was opening the door, I heard that friend who had always been quiet during our online sessions, yelling just about as loud as she could, exactly why one of my other friends' plans to infiltrate the villain's lair was just about the dumbest thing she had ever heard. And that was the last intelligible word she said before the whole room erupted into raucous laughter. And it all kind of clicked for me. That was my dancing welcome home, and to hers to some extent. She was there in that moment and loving every minute of it. Now, that may not sound quite as holy as those Thessalonians dutifully worshiping their God while the world around them tossed and turned. And from some people's perspectives, it might not be. But for Jeffrey Dreyer, a 16-year-old boy in the year 2021, we were pretty darn close. So here's my conclusion. I'm encouraging you to disconnect, to unplug from our devices and the internet and to plug back into the here and now, our families and our friends. And I know we can't just throw these things away. They're incredibly valuable tools to connect with others. But being mindful of our consumption in the same way that we know we can't survive, off of ice cream for every meal, though we might like to. We've got to have some, steaks, some, even Brussels sprouts, some food that we might not, be as excited to eat, but that will satisfy us and keep us fed and satisfied longer than any digital.